This is Corbett Wall, USDA Livestock and Grain Market News, here with your weekly feeder and stocker cattle market summary for the week ending October the 21st, where the bulk of our feeder cattle receipts now are calves, overwhelmingly calves, with very few true yearlings hitting the market right now. But calves sold really good this week, traded predominantly $3 to $6 higher across the nation, had spots a lot higher than that. Instances $8 to $12 higher, especially in those western mountain states from Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, out in western Nebraska. We have a lot of those high altitude calves coming down out of those mountains and hitting the market and finding a lot of demand there, guys ready to buy them. True grass yearling type green cattle that are really scarce hitting the market right now. Not many of them left, hardly at all. Where they did show up on the market, they're still selling firm to $5 higher, a nice price on them, but really not too many true grass yearling green condition cattle hitting the market. Down the southern plains, the Texas Panhandle, southwestern Kansas, Oklahoma Panhandle, they are noting that they're seeing a lot of those calves that were put on feed or into growing yards really at a light weight this summer due to the drought. And those cattle are hitting some of the direct feeder cattle markets right now. Those growing yards are not really set up to finish those cattle out really, and they're coming out at a yearling weight, but they're really still calves. Those cattle have put on a lot of flesh because they've been fed a pretty hot ration with a lot of distillers grains, because there's really the availability of ground hay, what you'd normally want to feed those growing cattle, was very, very tight. And so those cattle are hitting the market in a fleshy condition. They're not finding many friends. These direct feeder buyers are kind of giving them the cold shoulder. They want to give a huge discount on them. But these guys would like to get them out of those growing yards and let somebody else take them onto the feed lot, where they're definitely going to be a low efficiency type feeding cattle there. Don't have a lot of weight to put on before they're really going to stall out and be done. We expect those cattle to have an influence on the carcass weights and take a lot of tonnage off the market, which could be an even more bullish factor coming in for this spring fed cattle market, which is already trading, with April futures trading about $4 over the all-time record high. So we've got a lot of bullish signals out there. Your out front feeder cattle futures are also quite a bit higher than their current cash trades. We've got for winter and spring, 750-pound steer delivery there on the futures board is trading right up close to $1.50 a pound, which is quite a bit higher than what we're seeing in most of the sales right now. Did see a hard freeze across pretty much the Midwest to the north, which was a welcome sight. Really, we're not seeing any grass growth right now, and the hard freeze is not going to hurt a thing. Basically going to make it a lot better on trying to straighten up these calves, especially the new arrivals of these unweaned calves. So a lot of the guys are rooting for that hard freeze to come on. The guys down in the lower part of the Midwest and down the plains would like to see a hard freeze too. Basically, it cuts down a lot of your illness, a lot of your sickness on these cattle, and a lot of those diseases that are floating around out in the air. And we did see out in the western states there, in your mountain states like we talked about earlier, they're looking to dollars per head, so they backed up and got to these 400-pound steers now, where normally they'd buy a 500 to 600-pound steer. But right in there, weighing just on either side of 400 pounds, those steers are hitting $2 a pound all over the place. We had sale barns, Miles City, Montana, pays at the public auction yards and Billings, Torrington, Wyoming, Riverton, Wyoming, Bassett, Nebraska, North Platte, Nebraska. All those sale barns this week saw those calves weighing right around 4, hitting $2 or better a pound. The biggest was Ogallala, Nebraska, out there way out west, and had near 400 head in a couple big bunches there, really fancy steers weighing 417 pounds with an average price of $208.41. Huge prices we've never really seen before. Your fed cattle market was $1 to $3 higher this week, from 120 to 122. That $1.22 came later in your Thursday trading session, and mostly up north, because earlier in the day those southern markets started selling, the feedlots down in Texas and Kansas started selling those cattle at $1.20 and then $21. They started lifting their hedges. Then your futures market came up and then the guys up north that traded later in the day got $1.22. All this bullish stuff come out through the week, all classes of cattle selling higher, and then we expected the cattle on feed report to be at least neutral or bullish again, and then sure enough it comes out bearish. Your on feed totals, your actual was 104.9% of last year, and the average guess was 103.9. Placements, it's just hard for anybody to try to run down these placement figures, and a lot of times they don't seem to add up. But we had all those cattle, those light calves that went on feed back late spring, early summer, which took them off the market to be placed during September, what we're talking about right now. Still, your placements were 100.2% of a year ago. The average guess was 96.5%, and a lot of those analysts that really know what they're doing were all the way down into the upper 80s on the percentage-wise of what they thought the placements would be to a year ago. But really hard to pin that down. Marketings during September were right on target at 100.6% of a year ago, just a little more than we had a year ago. Regional weighted averages this week in your north central states, 600 to 700 pound steer average 143.80 compared to 142.98 last week and 116.28 a year ago. Down in the south central states, 500 to 600 pound steer 142.63 compared to 139.36 last week and 112.86 the same week a year ago. And down in the southeast, 400 to 500 pound steer this week cost you 136.80 compared to 132.14 last week and $113.16 a year ago this week. That wraps up your feeder cattle market summary for this week. Check out our website for more market news information at marketnews.usda.gov. From a regional market news office in St. Joe, Missouri, we'll talk to you next week.